The sun had barely crept over the ridge when I walked out to the barn that morning, boots crunching over the gravel, breath rising in pale streams against the cool air. Ranch mornings always carried a kind of peace that folks from the suburbs didn't understand. A balance between the scent of dew-wet hay, the muffled lowing of cattle waiting for feed, and the earthy stillness that told me the land was alive and steady. That barn was the heart of it all. Built by my grandfather's calloused hands, patched and reinforced by my father, and now kept in shape by me, it was more than a building. It was history, it was work, it was survival. Inside the barn, stacked neatly along one wall, were the sacks I'd been collecting for weeks. Dried manure from the herd, sifted and crumbled into rough pellets, destined to be spread over the fields as fertilizer. Anyone who'd ever worked a farm would have recognized the sight and smell instantly. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it was worth more to the soil than any chemical blend sold in shiny plastic bags at the hardware store. Out here, waste wasn't waste. Everything had its place, its use, its cycle. But apparently, not everyone in the neighborhood understood that. When the commotion started later that morning, I thought it was kids fooling around. I heard tires on the gravel, voices barking orders, and then the clang of metal as someone fumbled with the barn door. By the time I strode across the yard, wiping the sweat from my brow, I saw them. Karen and two of her HOA enforcers, clipboards tucked under their arms like weapons, gloves on their hands as they marched into my barn as if they owned the place. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded, voice echoing across the yard. Karen turned, her expression sour and self-righteous. "We've received multiple reports of unregistered crops being stored on this property," she announced, as if reading from a courtroom script. "As president of the Oak Ridge HOA, I am legally required to investigate contraband agricultural goods. That includes wheat, corn, or any other farm product that violates community standards." I blinked at her, stunned for a moment. "Contraband," I repeated. "Karen, this is a ranch. Everything here is a farm product." She ignored me, snapping her fingers at the two men in polo shirts and khakis. They bustled about the barn, opening sacks, peering inside, scribbling notes like they were part of some grand investigation. One of them pulled open a burlap bag and immediately recoiled, gagging at the stench. Karen frowned. "What is it?" "Wheat." "No," the man sputtered, choking. It's oh God." I leaned casually against the barn door, arms crossed. "That," I said, voice calm, "is manure. Cow dung. Dried, sifted, and stored for fertilizing the pastures." Karen blinked, confusion etched into her face. She leaned closer, sniffed once, and instantly regretted it, her face twisting as she stumbled backward. That's disgusting," she screeched. "You're storing feces in a community facility? That's a health violation." "It's my barn, Karen," I corrected, my patience wearing thin. "And it's not a health violation. It's called fertilizer. Been used for centuries. Keeps the grass growing, keeps the animals fed, keeps the land alive. You wouldn't last a week without it." Her eyes narrowed, but her arrogance wouldn't let her back down. "We had a complaint that you were storing wheat illegally, probably selling it out the back to avoid taxes. I have the right to seize goods under HOA Code Section 12. I laughed, not a chuckle, a full, deep laugh that rolled out of me like thunder. "Seize it? Karen, be my guest. Take every last bag. Go on. Load them up in your SUV. Sprinkle them across your HOA gardens. Sell them to your friends at the country club. But don't come crying to me when you find out the truth." Her face flushed red with anger. But pride is a dangerous thing, and Karen had too much of it to admit her mistake. She snapped her fingers again. "Take them," she ordered her men. So they did. By the afternoon, Karen's shiny white Lexus was sagging under the weight of half a dozen sacks of cow dung. The smell hit the cul-de-sac before she even pulled into the HOA office parking lot. By the time she'd hauled the bags inside, the stench had settled over the entire building like a curse. Her assistants, gagging and retching, tried to help stack the contraband goods in the conference room, but the stench clung to everything. The chairs, the carpet, even the fake potted plants by the door. Neighbors started showing up, demanding answers. "Why does the HOA office smell like a sewage plant?" one woman asked, covering her nose with a scarf. Another man peered into the conference room, eyes wide with disbelief. "Are those bags of cow crap?" Karen tried to salvage her authority. "This is evidence," she insisted, though her voice cracked from the strain of holding her breath. "We caught him storing illegal crops. This is contraband." But the truth didn't stay hidden long. Word spread quickly. Folks who'd grown up around farms, or who'd even just lived long enough to know the basics of soil, laughed openly. "That ain't wheat, Karen," one neighbor sneered. "That's fertilizer. You raided his barn and stole dung. You made the HOA a laughingstock." By evening, the office had been abandoned, the bags of manure sitting like grotesque trophies in the middle of the carpet. The smell had seeped so deep into the fabric that no amount of air freshener could mask it. Karen tried to quietly dispose of the sacks at the community dumpster, but even the garbage crew refused to touch them, leaving the piles stacked like monuments to her arrogance. For weeks after, the HOA meetings were haunted by the memory of that raid. The smell lingered in the office. The story lingered on people's lips. And every time Karen tried to regain her authority, someone would snicker and whisper, "Careful, she'll seize your wheat." Or, "Don't let her near the barn. She might mistake the cows for contraband too." The final humiliation came when a group of kids created a parody sign and hung it outside the office. "Oak Ridge HOA, now fertilized for your protection." Karen tried to tear it down, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Her name was forever tied to that raid, that smell, those bags of manure. And my ranch? It kept on thriving, the pastures greener than ever after I spread the rest of the fertilizer across the fields. Sometimes, at sunset, when the wind carried a faint scent of earth and grass, I'd lean on the fence and smile, because the land had a way of humbling people. And Karen, for all her rules and titles, had learned the hard way what real power smelled like.